So is that in fact all you have to do?
It's going to take all over my computer.
Ladies and gentlemen, guys and gals, it's Dork with Mark Espinoza
and Larry Young.
Your decked out in Fantastic Four awesomeness friend, except for this hat, this MTV hat from the old days.
That's a vintage one, huh?
Yeah, it's an unstructured hat that looks. It's a structured hat that looks unstructured because it's so old.
How do you? I mean, I've had this hat for like 2 years, and it's like falling apart.
Yeah.
What's your secret?
They just fall apart, and I make it work because I look like a blue collar, idiot. So, of course, all my hats look like it has sweat stains in it, and are coming off because I forgot the metric Framistan because I had the old Imperial Framistan. So, of course, that's going to impact my hat, right? Anyway.
Of course. Framistan.
Dude, I'm so excited to talk to you about all the nerd stuff that's going on.
Yeah. I want to see more about that sweater, though, real quick. Is it just the thing body all over? All over? Yeah.
It is. It's our good old pal Randall Armstrong, who works for Coliseum of Comics down in Tampa, Florida now. Okay. He's always posting crazy stuff on. He was Mr. Facebook guy. Hey, there's Chuck. Yeah, it's clobbering time. Oh, you know who that was? That was young Master Young saying, "Hey, Father, can I have the StreamYard link?" Let me finish this thing real fast. Randall Armstrong posted some video, and it was a fellow retailer down there that was wearing this. And I was like, oh my God, I don't care what you guys are talking about. Where in hell did that thing come from? And it turns out it's a Disney Park Orlando thing only that they're testing out because they're announcing the FF. So this actually has to do with what I wanted to talk about today. Let me get Walker the thing so he can come in. What a drag. How unprofessional. I don't even know where I am online. Here we go. Don't send it to Mimi. Send it to
It's ironic because Steve is currently in Orlando Park, the Disneyland.
World. No kidding. Yeah, Disney World is in Florida. Yeah, so apparently, and then there's a company that, of course, based in Orlando, that's probably just some guy in his garage whose wife yells at him. But he goes and gets all the Disneyland stuff and then resells it on eBay for like another 15%, which I'm very happy to pay him. Right? Yeah. The second I saw that on Randall's thing, I had it on my shoulders 3 days later. And so today is Fantastic Four Day, right? 4/4, and they announced 2 big Fantastic Four things
today.
Yes.
Oh man, I completely missed that. So I'm happy you're here.
That's why I put on all this in my cool. This is a real legit Fantastic Four suit because I said so, which is how movie props works nowadays. Oh my God. Are you seeing people will like straight up say this is a replica thing from Blade Runner and somebody will buy it for $33,000? It's like, I have that exact thing. Like the only difference is that one's yours and this one's mine. You mean to tell me that I can just do that and get $33,000 for that? Because maybe Mimi's gonna have something to say about that.
You're in the wrong business. Isn't there a photo of you cosplaying Reed Richards when you were like in your 20s? Floating around somewhere?
Yes. It's a black and white photo taken by super cool Teo Jose Manuel Arboleda. This is my college friend who's like a really big deal in the I forget what it's called. But it's the interactive theater space education stuff that Nick Tierce kind of does. They would be in the same realm. Anyway, he's award-winning, genius guy. And when he was in college, he had a crazy good photography eye. And if I asked him, he probably has the silver nitrate negatives still because he's that kind of guy. And be like, hey, man, can I get a 16 by 20 one of those for the Larry Young commemorative library?
Yeah, make a note. That's great. Was that costume all just handmade by you? Like no patches bought and nothing, just
No, my then current girlfriend Robin made that, and because she was like a home ec queen.
nice.
So yeah, that 4 is hand embroidered, and yeah, it says handmade by Robin in a little tag in the back because she was very into knitting and stuff.
That's awesome.
Apparently I had a type even back then. Smart, crafty chicks.
Yeah, well.
And look, speaking of that, I met the best one, settled down and bought a house, had a family, and here he is, Walker Young.
The product of a well-crafted chick.
Oh yeah, Shivers is here. He's got his bourbon and his jelly beans. That sounds like the best Easter breakfast ever.
Peeps and whiskey.
Do you guys know that about the Catholic faith, that you're supposed to give something up for Lent the 40 days before Easter? And then you go to church, and afterwards all the adults have given up alcohol. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. And then they go to Easter Sunday church, and they come back and get ripped because most people were telling the truth. They hadn't had anything for 40 days. It's more than a month. And in the late winter, early spring of Easter in rural Vermont, it's cold. People use their bourbon and brandy to stay warm.
Wisely.
So giving up some privation for Lent is actually a big deal. But,
we were meats. My family would give a meat every Lent.
For the month and then 2 weeks or whatever?
Yeah.
Wow. And that's why, Walker, we walk our own path.
I mean, it's a good challenge of testament. Like what could I give up for 40 days and be kind of tested with? Homework.
Yeah.
The thing about that, I get the whole thing about organized religion, but all of the good points just happen along the way during the calendar year, and it's like, no, these are good points. You should do that all the time. And so that's where I eventually got with Lent, was like, hey man, if I'm supposed to give up wantingly spending $3 a day at the pinball arcade, like that was a real privation for me back when I had to care about Lent.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe that's kind of a good idea anyway. Maybe I should just spend $3 a week and make it a big deal instead of some fucking junkie habit where I'm just throwing quarters into a hole.
And not even like bettering yourself, or you're just denying yourself for a month and not really learning from it because you're just going to pick it right back up after. I mean, maybe the idea is that you'll continue this habit all year round, but
why I remembered that was because I did the equivalent of what all the adults did, and I got ripped, and I just I got in trouble that day because instead of taking an hour lunch at the orthodontist office, I took 2 because I was playing all the pinball. And I get back and I get this thing about not being responsible, and I'm like, yeah, I gave up pinball for Lent. And it wasn't a Bill Murray movie, It wasn't like, oh well, that's good. Well, let's not do that again. It wasn't like that, but you could kind of see Dr. McLaughlin was like, yeah, right. I guess he's got the point. What's the point of being mad?
Chuck giving up the asparagus and the Brussels sprouts. I grow asparagus in my front yard. I hate it.
That's funny. Do you hate that you're growing it, or do you just hate asparagus?
Both.
I have never been.
I like it certain times.
Never been a big fan of asparagus. Never to the point where I don't really like to eat it. And then of course Mimi's dad is the biggest fan of asparagus, and is mad that there's not asparagus ice cream that he could eat as a treat before he goes to bed. And
whenever I have it for dinner with my partner, one of us will be in the bathroom an hour later, and you'll hear across the house, asparagus, and I'm like, oh,
sorry. I had a really cool. Well, we'll get back to the Fantastic Four, but speaking of smelling things, I have this great story. I'm the executive of charge of bacon production for lunch and film and TV. And so yesterday, in the fullness of time, it's time for me to refill the giant tub of bacon. So I cook it in the oven, slow cook for 20 minutes, to a pound or two of bacon, depending. Right. But yesterday I was in the middle of doing all this cool stuff for the loose cannon collection, and it was just happening yesterday. So I ended up in the middle of it. Mimi said, "Hey, can you go out and take pictures of the cabin? I want to send these things to the cabin people about the windows." I'm like, "Absolutely." So I drop what I'm doing. I go out there and take these specific photos. Has to be from 3 feet away, then showing the whole thing. We can't get the south wall because of the fence of the neighbors. And I sit down and I'm sending it to her, and in our house, like the back of the backyard and like the front of the house is the kitchen. I go, somebody's cooking bacon. Fuck, that's me.
I'm cooking bacon.
But thank God I went up there, and the little timer alarm's going off, which I couldn't hear because I'm in the backyard. But I didn't miss it. It was only in for like an extra minute or so, I can figure, because some of the ends were getting a little charred, but otherwise it's crispy like how he likes it. Can you confirm, Walker? You haven't really said anything.
It was good. The bacon this morning, top notch. I can confirm it was a little crispy, but I don't really like the bacon that I have to like chew on. I like having it and just going. And then
when I'm at a restaurant,
when
I'm at a restaurant, I tell them I want them to be embarrassed bringing it out. Like, that's how crispy I want it.
That's awesome. Oh, look at Sagasag gave up coffee once. I get wanting to honor your religion and everything, but that's ridiculous.
Oh, that's too far. That was the road.
I'm sorry. That's where I become a Protestant. Like, I'm protesting now, and you can point a finger at God's coffee. Why did God make coffee if He wants me to give it up? Anyway,
so what are these two Fantastic Four things that happened today that I missed? Apparently.
Okay, so the first one. Well, what do you want to talk about? The first one that's really cool. It's just kind of they did a movie poster that has the whoever the kid is who's playing Johnny Storm from Stranger Things.
Oh yeah,
and he's flying in that typical Jack Kirby pinup thing of him flying with a sort of a cross section. But they did a really cool thing because of the uniforms look like they have sort of vertical quilted areas on it. When he's on fire, it looks like the old school Joe Sinnott inks of just the black lines on thighs and stuff that he would do with a red and yellow coloring. It just looked really cool. So once I was done looking at that, trying to figure out what the new uniforms probably look like, I looked in the back of it, and it's got a Jack Kirby New York City skyline. It's not, and so I'm so happy because we're gonna get the 1960s Mad Men FF for at least Act 1, but it's gonna be the cool 1962 version of Jack Kirby's New York, and that's just
awesome.
That's gonna be sweet because once they put it out there, it's there in the Marvel universe. Like, we're going back to that big Eternals island in the middle of the South Pacific.
We gotta be.
Well, because of this now. Also on Fantastic Four. I don't know what it is. When I get you're like the voice of reason, Mark. Whenever it's just us chatting, I'm able to take my my line of thought. That's what I'm talking about. Isn't that great? So the bit on his chest and the bit on his legs, it's looks like Joe Sinnott inked it, even though it's a painting,
Yeah.
And then you have the New York stuff in the back that's just clearly, the World's Fair sort of, skyline of New York. Anyway,
you think this is kind of saying that this is not taking place in the MCU to start off with, in a different universe?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at the bottom where it says Marvel Studios Presents, and it's in that old 1960s pop art sort of thing.
Oh, so this is going to be like the Werewolf by Night one, where it's not really
No, I really think they're going to just start off with the FF that we know. They're not going to explain anything. They'll probably say something with dialogue, but maybe they're tying up the Mole Man or something. Some cool adventure, and then you see everything in New York and the characters and situations and how they deal with each other, and then they fight a nihilist or something, and they're trapped in the negative zone for 70 years. And then they come out, and Mark's dream comes, my personal dream, but Mark's genius quote of all time. You just have somebody step out, that it looks like it's Pedro Pascal, and go, hey, does this universe have a Tony Stark? And there, you don't have to explain jack shit. You can just start that MCU movie at the beginning of Act 2 and take her home. But they revealed, it's probably not, if that happens, it's just going to be the beginning, because they revealed that Shalabara Ball, we lost Walker, which is the one bit.
Yep, I'm back.
That's the one bit I wanted you to hear, man. They said that the Silver Surfer is going to be in it, so that's Herald of Galactus, so you get Galactus probably. But, bad news for people who give a fucking shit. It's Shala Ball instead of Norrin Rad. Okay, that's cool. I don't know if there's any Norrin Rad fans that want to see it that bad. Maybe if you're a Kirby guy and it makes more sense, but whatever. Oh, wait, I forgot. Norrin Rad's a dude, a big silver genitalless dude, I guess. And Shalabara is a girl, I guess, even though
is that the bald lady?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's not the Frankie Ray Galactus.
Yeah.
Herald. It's the other golden one from Norrin Rad's world, Shambhala or whatever it's called. I forget. But hey, Phil's here. Shirt tuckers. So now that's the big thing, and I literally cannot fucking believe that anyone gives a literal shit about whether your featureless Herald of Galactus is gold or silver and man or woman, because if there was ever a character where it didn't fucking matter, it's the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
Well,
right?
I would say that I would want the Silver Surfer to be silver. That's just my opinion, though.
Well, that's the thing. They haven't really. Nobody said anything. Everybody's been leaping to. I think she's just going to be the Herald of Galactus. I don't think they're going to say Silver Surfer. Why would you? She's gold.
But I mean, then that's fine. Because then they leave that character, the Silver Surfer, open to.
Yeah, you gotta have a sequel.
Yeah,
but I swear to God, if they did something like, she's really silver but always in gold light to try to explain it to fanboys, I would be more offended by that than I would that they still called her Silver Surfer but still try to have it both ways. I would be more offended by that than I'm the concept that this fucking giant celestial energy thing that eats planets like gumdrops has this energy fucking thing that announces his arrival, and it matters at all whether it looks like a dude or a girl. Why would you spend? I'm actually getting kind of embarrassed. I'm spending so much time on the people who are worrying about that.
Yeah, not so much about.
But content, right?
Yeah.
we got to fill minutes here.
This is pretty funny. This is a joke my kid doesn't get the reference to. Richard Gere as Silver Surfer would leave me breathless. Do you get that? So Richard Gere, the American Gigolo, the guy stars in Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
No, I'm telling for Walker.
I'm like,
I know you
go on.
He did a movie called Breathless, which was a remake of some French thing. But one of the key bits is he's reading the Silver Surfer comics as a thing throughout the film. And people like Phil's age and me, that was like genius, because Richard Gere was every girl's dream. He's like if you took Travis Kelce and Brad Pitt and Tom Holland and put them all together all at once. That's what people thought of Richard Gere in the mid 80s. And so for that fucking rock hard masculinity sex bomb dude to be reading comics was like it was seismic in my community. We all instantly went from nerds to, oh no, we're Richard Gere too. It was awesome. So all we take away from that is white people. It's important to be represented too. It's just
it's funny because that immediately makes me think of the scene in Crimson Tide when Denzel Washington kind of steps in talking about his favorite Silver Surfer. Like anyone knows that Kirby Surfer was the better of the Silver Surfers, which is the clear evidence that Tarantino did a rewrite on that script at one point.
You could point at that scene and go, "Oh, thanks, QT. That was great." I actually mildly disagree with you because Milo Manara has done the best Silver Surfer, but I'll wait to have that conversation on stage in Hall H with you when you do a film retrospective table with director Walker Young. And I get called up out of the crowd. They wouldn't even have me on table. They'd be like, "Oh, well, Walker says something very kind, like, well, my dad is really the reason I'm here with coronavirus and whatnot." He forced me to watch 4 theatrical movies a day and communicate what I felt at every step.
It was the most intense. It's the most intense writing class I've ever been in.
Yeah.
It's just nonstop. I'd be waking up, I'd be sleeping. Like 3 in the morning. What? Hey, I saw this cool thing. Look, read this. And I'd read this and it's really cool.
This is why
eyes are gonna watch itself.
This is why it works. That was my thing back then.
Yeah.
Tell me why this works.
I'm getting PTSD. I'm getting PTSD too. So tell me why that scene works. Yeah. Why does that shot composition work?
Yeah. I don't do that anymore.
No, I know. And now I have stories where I'm sitting in my Spanish class and we're watching Encanto, and like at the end they're all singing together, and I look up and distastefully from my writing I go, "Oh, well, this is the scene where the whole village comes and helps them build their house again." And my friend, and then the next scene, they come up and the entire village helps them build their house. And my friend who's sitting next to me turns to me and goes, "How did you know?"
But what's the answer to that? How do you know? Because you know how movies work.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just what happens next in the movie. And it is really funny that, like, you think, like, how do your friends not know that? Right?
Yeah.
Like I was thinking about the audience now that, like, Mark and I, we could quote Stripes to each other for like 10 minutes or Ghostbusters or something, right? And it doesn't really happen with you and your friends because you guys consume content at a different speed and for a different reason. Like, because you guys are trying to watch everything, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, I have 10 seconds here taking a pee at the urinal at school. I can watch like 3 TikToks. It's just like when we were your age, it was like cool to be bored for a minute.
Yeah.
And so if what's that? Meatballs was on HBO like once a day for 3 months. Well, then you just accidentally memorized Meatballs because that was the only thing that was on right when you got home from school. Right. And now there's no reason for anyone to do that.
Yeah.
Like, can you remember even a good movie like the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire? Can you remember a line from that movie that isn't a line from the earlier movies? Because I can't. And I think that it's because writers don't write like that anymore. Where, like, you don't want to punch up a submarine movie with some full-on nerd thing because who cares? Right? Everybody just wants, there's the good guy, there's the bad guy. You want to steal that sub. No, they want control. They do or they don't. The end. That's what TikTok guys want now.
There's a line from Chinatown that my partner and I will go back and forth on. And it's basically like, I'm not as dumb as you think I look, I think I am, or something like that. And it's just the way it was composed. We had to go back and rewatch it and learn what it was because it was just a perfect moment line.
Yeah.
That we still to this day, like we get it wrong all the time, but it's like I'll do something, and then Jez will be like, "Oh, it looks like you're not as dumb as you think I am."
Right. That's awesome. You know what it is though? I think the boys of the Zoomers and below, the Zoomers and the Alphans, they don't give a shit. right?
Yeah.
Because that's not what their content's about. Their content's about spectacle, and spectacle's over really fast. Like every 4th of July, you'll see people's homespun fireworks and stuff, but literally everywhere, people post that one time in San Diego where there was a misfire, and $500,000 of fireworks went off at once.
Oh yeah.
So it looks like just this barge on fire, right? And I think that's what people are training themselves to look at in the audience, is that like I just want that $500,000 all at once, man. Give me that barge on fire so I can go on to the next thing. And it's like, in the old days, you would never do that because you never knew when that next thing was coming, right?
Yeah.
It was a surprise when people were like, "You need to see Star Wars. That movie's great."
Yeah.
We kind of had this conversation today, although on a different level, where we were talking about. So we're watching The Gentleman, and there was a song that came on. We were like, "Oh, this is really cool." So we found it, and then we were thinking, and we're like, "Oh, this is a cool song for like a bar fight. Like this is what this song makes me think of." So on the ride to school today, we were talking about like how it could work in the scene, and I was like, "Oh, maybe you could just like play it over the bar fight." But then I was like, and like at the end of the conversation, I was kind of thinking, I don't even know if you even need a song over the fight, because the story this is for is supposed to be like my idea of what a Quentin Tarantino script is. So I was like, if that's what you're going for, maybe just have it be silent and just hear like the fist on faces and like bodies hitting the floor, and you don't really need that because you get what's going on. So I just thought I feel like that also like the writing not to quote is also like people are like just adding music to keep audiences interested so that they have a soundtrack. It's like the audio version of like putting like video game play under like a movie clip just to get the views.
That's such a good point. I want to add one thing though too.
Mhm.
I also think it's special effects, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason to have a zinger line when you can like, oh, the fucking robot just turned into a gorilla with a bionic arm. It's like that cool line is right there. But you're trading visuals for writing.
Yeah, I was gonna say because maybe you can't explain what happened. Like you can't like quote a line from Frozen Empire, but you can go, wasn't that cool when the monster walked into the closet and put the horns on and it like fused back to its head? But that's exactly what it is. It's like you're visually getting a quote.
I got another one
I see
for
what you're saying.
our t-shirts. Well,
Yeah.
Write a fucking line.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
Mimi's got this thing. She wants us to have a t-shirt thing, and I'm just like, great. Nothing but black t-shirts and then shit we fucking say on the internet in lowercase Helvetica.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Write a line.
I feel like write a line is a little too close to give it a line, which is something we also say providing context.
Oh, do we say give it a line sometimes?
Give it a line. When you're if there's like I feel like this is said a lot in newer Star Treks. They'll just introduce something and you're like, I don't know where this came from. They didn't explain it. They didn't give it a line, which is always what you say. Like if you have something that seems to be not make sense, then you just have to give it a line. That's all you need. Like instead of like showing up and going, oh, well, you're just have the audience assume that they know what's going on. You need to just at least give it a line, even for the stupid people.
Hey, Mark, you of all people know like how fucking awesome this conversation is, right?
Yeah.
It's you and me being writers, and he's this 16-year-old is telling us some stuff that we're like, that's all true.
It's funny because when I like watch older films with Jez, our line is always give it a second, because it'll be the opposite of like, wait, I don't understand why that person is. I'm like, give it a second, and then 10 seconds later, because you killed my father 20 years ago. And just like, oh, okay.
Right.
You have faith that it's going to be explained eventually at some point. Whereas nowadays you're like, Palpatine just showed up.
And this loops
Right,
this
exactly.
loops all the way back to the audiences not having enough patience and wanting everything like right then. Because you need to give it a second, because movies aren't 30 seconds long. They're an hour and a half.
Maybe. Unless you're like Oppenheimer or something.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think that give it a second kind of relates more now with movie trailers, where people see a trailer or they hear an idea and they're like, oh, well, this is going to be terrible because of this. And I'm like, have you even seen the movie yet? Do you even know what direction they're going to go with it?
Mark, that's an excellent point. Like
that's
the audience is like, they make their judgment based on teasers, even like not even a full trailer, right? It's just, you'll see something like I was guilty of this. That's why I remember it so clearly. Now they did this teaser poster for I don't know, I guess it was 1917, but it didn't say. It was just this black poster with white stuff that said, you know, from the director of all these Christopher Nolan films. It's like, comes this new thing at this date. And I was like, that is contentless, right? That's like, hey, if you like Christopher Nolan movies, his next one's coming out at this date. And then they made like a teaser campaign out of that. And so then I was like, you know what, Larry, just give it a minute. You know, that's part of the process, right? Like all you're saying is you don't think that's an effective teaser campaign. So who gives a shit? Right?
Well, I'm glad you said that. You're like, oh, like this is just you thinking that's not an effective teaser campaign, because I feel like that has some similarity towards the Guardians of the Galaxy teaser that just said, "You're welcome, Guardians of the Galaxy," because like you're providing an attitude. I understand. It's like you're giving an attitude. You're like setting like, this is what this kind of movie is.
So,
but
you're thinking like a kid in school. Think like like a movie guy. The difference between these two posters is one is a black poster with white text that is contentless, and the Guardians poster has the Guardians logo, a picture of the 5 Guardians, and all like the cast list tells you who's in it. So you know who Chris Pratt is at this point. You know who Zoe Saldana is at this point. And so then what makes that marketing line genius is that's almost too much information, right? It's literally the opposite of that Nolan poster. And so they know that, and they deal with it in the most Guardians way possible by just going, you know, August 8th, 2014, I think it was.
Something like that.
You're welcome. Right?
Yeah.
Because you know what they're saying at that point is like, there's a fucking raccoon with a gun. There's a giant tree with a face, you know? Even if you know nothing about it, you get what that is a poster for.
Yeah.
The Nolan one is exactly the opposite. Christopher Nolan has a movie coming out on this date. All right. So anyway, I see how it looks the same when you're talking about it, but if you lose the visual component, then it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 19. I don't know. 19 was Sam Mendes. It probably was. I don't pay attention to people who direct James Bond movies.
I like 1917. I don't know. I thought that
was a good movie. I liked it, but you know,
we did that with a double feature with 1917 and Dunkirk. So that was a fun 2 nights.
Maybe that teaser was for Dunkirk, actually.
No, it was probably for 1917.
It's funny. For the first 2 minutes of this conversation, I thought you were talking about 1941.
You know what? I've never seen that because I've read the Marvel, you know, the Marvel adaptation of it and the Mad Magazine satire. So I figure I'm pretty up on that movie.
I think you might be. That's all you might need.
Yeah, it doesn't really have the best. I love every time I say something like this. This is what I get from Chris saying.
Well, I think just saying that,
crying otter.
Steve's in a hotel room in Florida, and he just like woke right up with that comment.
Right. They need me. Wait, have you not seen 1941?
Aykroyd, Belushi, Candy.
I think that's amazing. Actually, we need to have Steve. We need to shoot a short film of Steve doing that.
Yeah.
For Dork Court. Like, even just
Okay,
this.
I'll call my crew. Hold on.
Just you naming off a list of movies that you haven't seen, and Steve is just
It's
hard.
just like,
oh.
he could do it like Mission Impossible, right? That's the teaser. Like, it's somebody doing something different every time, but you always cut to Steve going, "What? You have not seen this?" But
Yep.
Steve's always in a different thing. He's like jumping off.
Steve is here and stare.
Yeah. These are all probably quotes, right? Let me hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
The only thing I know about 1941 is that cool jacket that Belushi has with all the signposts on the sleeve.
Yeah.
That's literally all I like. Okay. And it's supposed to be Steven Spielberg's great thing, and everybody. It's his. What's the guy that did Pixar? Andrew Stanton. It's basically his John Carter. This happens to everybody. Johnny Depp's Lone Ranger. At some point, the audience just decides it doesn't matter how good this movie is. You don't get this one because you've been up to here. And so that's Spielberg's. I'm sure he's fine with that, with the career he's had.
Yeah. It was like, what, his fourth movie or something like that?
Was it really?
It had to be, though, right?
Well, see, he went through it quickly then, Everybody gets a turn in the barrel. Anyway. So, yeah, did we cover all the incels being mad, the Silver Surfer's gold, and a girl?
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to buying a Fantastic Four uniform at Target. Like they're going to just go right by Hot Topic, and you're going to be able to get that like in the men's and toddlers sections of Target. They'll have these seasonal displays. Like, here's the Fantastic Four thing.
I keep staring at it. Just like the design of it is really, really cool. Like the suit.
I like it. Just as long as they didn't do just molded leather again, I'm so down. Like, I don't care if they, put stuff on it, but that fits my whole idea that they should be blue collar Ghostbusters, right? Yeah. They're the adventurers, right? So so they have these cool little, military knit sweaters and some, cargo pants and some boots, and then they put their shit on top of that. Yes, please. God. I cannot wait for this movie.
I mean, I got the Mission Impossible movies going like 24/7, and just Vanessa Kirby is just the little look she does in her face when she's just kind of like
I haven't seen her in whatever British stuff she does, Downton Alley or The Crown or whatever.
Yeah,
I've just seen her in adventure stuff, and she's just one of those actors that sell the adventure movie thing. I'm not sure I could even really articulate it, but there's people who get it and there's people who don't. Like Kelly Swanson from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. When you see her in The Phantom, you're like,
oh, Christy Swanson, yes.
Did I say Kelly? Yeah, Christy. Yeah, Steve is here. But she just gets the adventure thing, where she's completely at home doing other stuff. Yeah. But like, I don't know.
There's a scene in Hobbs and Shaw that made me love her. She's in a car with Statham, and they go shooting through a window, and they start to do like this weird flip, and then they pan to her in the seat, and she's just like having fun. She's like, "Yep, we're flying upside down.
Right,
we're going through 80 windows, but
this is as good a way as any, right?"
Yeah.
Anyway, that's cool. Yeah. She really, but that's what I mean. She gets it. She's you can tell that the camera loves her, which is great. But she also understands the assignment, right? That you're not there for eye candy. You're there for moving the story along in a cool ass way.
Yeah.
And you have to be gorgeous. That's just good for everybody, right? But that's not role one like it used to be in the 70s, right?
Huh.
I don't know. That's my thinking. I mean, same with Agent Carter, right? I mean, but you can do that with the dudes. It's beautiful, impossibly beautiful people doing impossible things because that's the mission. right? So I don't know. These guys that are so worried about gender, it's like, really, man, it's 2024. Can't the cool people just be cool? And then if you're into that and they bring it up later, well, all right. But like, it's, I don't know. I've just thought that forever, and I'm an idiot. So I don't know what's wrong with everyone else.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I am at the point where I can say the Kristen Wiig Ghostbusters movie was not very good.
you feel like that's a something.
I think people are coming in hot, but as I rewatched it recently, I'm like, this is just not a good movie. Again, the franchise rights alone, have them purchase a license to be Ghostbusters in the Ghostbuster universe. Changes everything dramatically.
Hey, Walker.
Yes.
You got to stop typing. All I hear is clicking.
Sorry.
I'm sorry,
the clippity clappities.
Yeah. But I did hear what Mark said, and I agree with you 100%. Because my big problem with the Girl Busters is that they tried to fix the criticism in the real world and not do it in the movie itself, because they were picking fights with people during production. So all they have to do is answer the criticism in the show, right?
Yeah.
Where that's it exactly. It's like, hey, if you don't like it, we just bought the license rights, right? Yeah. And then it's like, oh, well, these are the guys that are doing the thing over here. And you can buy in or not, and then nobody gets mad, right?
Yeah.
But those guys were like, no, we have to force this down your throat because it's the time of people being yes or no and not just okay like it used to be, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, or no thank you. Oh, my God. Walker's story. Would you like to do this homework? Oh, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
All right. That's the world everybody lives in now. You can tell the teacher, you just rather not say.
Not today, but thank you.
It's just assumed that maybe your anxiety is kind of hard today. Maybe you don't. Nobody thinks that you don't have the answer because that would be judging people.
Sorry, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I can't do it today.
Right. No. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look at this, man. Joe Flaherty was also in 1941, and rest in peace. I read this awesome thing. You know how all the celebrities always have something to say. But
that is true.
Eugene Levy, he's still alive. That guy's still alive, right? He says about Joe Flaherty that the most he ever laughed was he was editing one of those, I don't know. Remember the 5
SCTV?
Yeah, no, the Second City Television, but they had a skit where it was 5 guys and it was just they were singers. I forget exactly what it was, but he's editing it and they're choosing different reaction shots, and he realizes that Joe Flaherty is playing his guy slightly drunk. And he doesn't mention it, and he would never have noticed it during the skit, but having to edit it and look at everything over and over, he realizes that he's like just a half a step behind everybody, and every line reading is just a little sloppy, but it's nothing you'd notice, right? And so he's laughing forever, and he goes to talk to him, and he goes, yeah, I just do that for the people who notice. And I'm like, man, what a great story about, like, that guy. In one little anecdote, you get, well, that guy really added to the scene. Like, if you knew him or saw his work or something, that guy was bringing value more often than not. Doing shit like that, right?
I love that. That's great.
So, I just read today, looking back at memories and stuff. I like looking at all the Facebook stuff because I get cool pictures of Walker. It reminds me of fun stuff we did. And on this day, we had gone to watch something, and you said one of your favorite things about going to movies is watching Walker yell at the end of Endgame. It's when Falcon goes on your left and everybody shows up. You're like, yeah, that was awesome because Walker lost his mind. And I'm like, that fucking everybody lost their mind. And that's
Cap picking up the hammer, dude.
But see, there you go. There's like everybody knows the line, right? Because those guys are writing lines. They're telling you a story. They're making you feel something, but they're giving you that moment that everybody has in their life. Like, you remember when you met Jez, right?
Yeah.
like everybody has a thing, and you remember probably what you said or something they said, right? Everybody's got like a big thing and a few big things in their life. And hey, on your left was a big thing for that's when Sam met Cap for the first time. And hey, wouldn't this be funny and dramatic if this is the end of life or now? It's a little joke, and that sticks in the world's head, and that's what Star Trek Discovery does not do.
When Walker brought it up about add a line for Star Trek, and I'm like, he doesn't even need to say he's talking about Discovery. We all know you're talking about Discovery.
Yeah. I promised John Price I wouldn't say anything, but I did write a Dork Court article because Thursday's Dork Court Day, and it's useless. I turned it off, man.
Wow, it's the new one, right? They just stopped off today.
Yeah. They dropped 2 actually, and I got to the end of the Act 2 break, and the second one I was like, I started thinking. I didn't care about anything that was going on. It's like, who are these people and what do they want again? And they're on season 5, and nobody knows what they want. Like in Star Trek, the original series, you never had that thought because they tell you in the fucking beginning, seek out strange new life, new civilization is bold to go. They tell you it's like the best mission statement in the world. So you can turn on any Star Trek in any order and go, I know what's up.
Yeah.
And in this
Next Generation as well. Just like we know what's going on. We know what they're doing.
Absolutely. And for pretty much the same reason, right? They tell you, here's what's up, but it's this is the cruise ship and we brought our kids. Right? And kind of Deep Space Nine is a little like that in that it doesn't have a spoken word intro, and it has this somber like, we're stuck here. Bum, bum, bum. That kind of works too. And then Voyager does it visually. It's like, oh, that's the first one where the ship actually interacts with environment. So it's always flying through like the rings of Saturn and nebula and stuff like that. And it's raining or whatever. And so, and then Enterprise has its own problems. But this one, it's like, what do they burn the beginning on? Like weird little like blueprinty things that don't make any sense. All right. It's a tone poem. All right. Well, but I don't know.
I never caught that with Voyager, like being the first one to kind of be involved with like flying through debris and nebulas and stuff.
I don't know if you notice this, but I think about Star Trek kind of a crazy amount.
No.
Like I probably, if you asked me, I'd have opinions on like real changes in like season 2, like I don't know. You see that's what I think. Anyway, thank you. That's very nice. I have to get better at that. That you're right. That's an amazing observation. I'm a genius. No, but I mean, me, like from a writer's standpoint, I study that stuff. I'm like, I always think, what are people trying to say? And I don't remember what this was, so it's probably not a good anecdote, but I just said this to Mimi. Is I was telling her about something I watched, and I was like, that you can tell right there is a writer not having to go to therapy this week because he wrote this dialogue for this character. It was just like a whole thing about like the writer thing of being stuck in a room where nobody's paying attention to you and you're doing something that's valuable and everyone will care. It's just 3 months later where you've moved on and everybody's like, you're a fucking genius. And you're like, thanks. It's like, where were you guys 3 months ago when I did feel that way and I wanted to share it with everyone? Well, the visual effects guys had to do their stuff and they lost the composite reel and it just took 3 months. All right. Well, I'm working on my novel now. Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Voyager has the best intro and best intro music. I don't know. In Star Trek, if your caveat is that the original series is assumed, because none of this other stuff happens without them doing the first bit.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that's a little unfair to go, this has the best one. It's like, well, yeah, they had 40 years to think about, let's make a good Star Trek intro, Anyway.
Voyager, for all its flaws, has some of the best Star Trek moments, I think, just explaining who they are as an organization and people. Just like you take like how how much do you believe this bullshit if you don't have anyone to enforce it behind you? If you can just go in the middle of nowhere, are you still going to be a good guy?
That too was why I liked that show as long as I did. But I really wish that they had done like what I wanted to see from that show. Is the way you play that up is to watch it slowly break down, right? So they show up at Earth going, boy, the last 7 years sucked, but look how tidy we look and everything's cool. And I think really that like if any Star Trek show should have had consequences, it should have been that, because they're out in the middle of fuckwhere, right?
Yeah.
So like they should have had like alien tech like glommed on to replace an engine because of what happened in season 3, right?
Yeah.
And like Janeway should have been full on Captain Ahab. Like she should have had a peg leg, like green screen that real leg off for all of the last season. Eye patch. I'm getting you fucking guys home. Like, you know, like season 3 is all that like the Maquis took over engineering and they're like, haha, which is why they have that new, you know what I mean? Like they should have gone bananas with that show. And it was just like, oh no,
they totally cheated with like they ran into the other starship captain who actually did all of that and was just using like alien life forms to fuel his engines, and the ship was all in disarray and he was like a piece of shit.
I remember. Yeah. Give me that one. Except that was, he went into the red line. That's the whole like demented Starfleet captain trope of like Captain Tracy and, you know, Will Decker, all those guys, where it's like they don't just make a wrong choice or a victim of circumstance. Like they fuck up and they're demented, right? And so, okay.
How did I get this far?
Right.
How did I become
to do everything right? Don't you think I know that? Anyway.
I still see the faces of all the men I've killed.
Walker, man, who's a little corner store? That's a guy from freshman year.
No, wait, is he on?
Yeah.
That's Diego.
Hey, what's up, Diego? We saw some junior prom pictures. That's pretty funny.
Clark Kent on the steps of City Hall.
They tried to do, you know, that famous Star Trek one where they're like Kirk and Spock are like standing side by side. Look it up. It was a TV Guide cover. They kind of did the selfie version of that. But Diego just is like, yeah, man, am I a famous guy from the 60s or do I just need a haircut? Look at this. Yes. Hello, Diego. Thank you for joining us.
And hello to you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. But I hate to cut it short, but we got to do a short one. This one, all
right. We're just pulling out 6 minutes early. That's not so bad.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. Yeah. No, we just don't want to make all the girls pregnant. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Awesome chat. And
Steve will be back next week. Our resident. How dare you? Haven't seen that guy.
That's right. Off having fun. Hey, thanks, Walker, too.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
And thanks, Diego, Phil, Chuck, Chris, and anybody else I'm missing. Thanks for hanging out. That was fun.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.